What's going on, everybody? It's D Got Sense back with another video, and today I'm gonna do it a little different. I'm not gonna do the typical breakdown with my interpretation of a quote, but I'm gonna try this new approach because I noticed I was getting kind of off topic and I was starting to miss a few key points that would later I would recollect and realize that I left it out. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and get into it. So this will be episode one of the D Got Sent show, and the first topic of today is why people or why won't people change, right? And one thing we can all understand is the thing about changing something is to admit that you've been doing it wrong. And the reason most people can't admit that they're doing something wrong is because of simply pride and ego. It means that you have once lied to yourself or once misled yourself, most importantly, right? Because to admit that you're wrong is to admit that you didn't know what you were doing. And what that tends to lead to is discomfort. And that discomfort stems from um, the consequence of an action, right? Because once you do something and it doesn't turn out how you planned, you start questioning your own logic, your own judgment, your feelings, your emotions, your own everything, right? That's why most people don't really like growth. That's why most people truly detest self development because it causes you to admit that something was wrong and you needed to fix it. You know what I mean? And most people lack that level of accountability in their life due to a few reasons. It could be childhood, um, and it could be environmental reasons, like no one ever held you accountable. A lot of people allowed you to get away with things that they should have checked you on long ago. Um, or it could be as simple as no one really cared what you did, and that it could be a mixture of both. And the main reason people don't change is because a lot of people they tolerate their lifestyle, right? Because when you change something, you quite literally have to even science, right? Like when you were in school, it taught you about the different forms of energy, like kinetic. In order to like when something is burned, right? It's changed on the molecular level, meaning that you have to change things at the finest point. You know what I mean? You have to refine every bit of yourself so you're not going back and forth between um, two lifestyles, right? Because one will eventually consume the other. And the another reason people don't change is because of this simple thing too. When you change yourself for the better, the only way to have friends is to get new ones, right? And most people aren't. They don't have the courage to be disliked. They don't have the courage to do what's best for them, and they don't have the courage to step away from foolishness, toxicity, or any type of negativity for that matter. And that's another reason people don't change. Most people are people pleasers. They don't have the gumption or the intestinal fortitude or the self love enough to walk away from people that are causing them turmoil, right? So instead of growing and leaving, right, which means to change, they rather just keep dealing with it, right? They're not going to change what they're tolerating. They tolerate the behavior. You see it all day, up and down, left and right. You'll see it a lot throughout your life where you'll have people that they claim they want change, but you'll notice that their actions and their words never match, right? Excuse me. And that's the main way you know that someone is lying to you, right? Is if their words and their actions don't align. It's a key indicator. And change is and it's another simple thing is change is hard. There's nothing comfortable about branching off into something new that you don't know what's gonna happen next, right? Now, granted, this also speaks to a person's level of nah, that's gonna get me banned. Okay, for example. some things can be seen, right? Certain results can be seen. Like, for example, eating healthy, right? We know that eating healthy and working out will reduce your cholesterol, it'll help with your blood pressure, it'll help with inflammation. Um, It'll probably even help with arthritis, right? That's why they're trying to get you to go to the doctor all the time and never tell you to eat no fruits and vegetables. They rarely tell you to change your diet. They always try to prescribe you some type of pill or potion, because that's how they mixing it up in the back. They got all these words you can't even pronounce. But it simply starts from looking at what you want, seeing the result, and choosing to pursue it. And to refuse to change with things that are proven to work is simply you just don't care. You know what I mean? And I know I say that a lot, but it really comes down to a willingness um, to do better. I mean, it's quite literally that simple. It's like the old saying, you can't lead a horse to water, or you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. And, I added a little bit onto that, which is if you try to make it drink, you're going to drown it, right? That's why it's very hard to change people because they don't want to. It's very hard to convince someone that something is wrong with them when they don't see a problem themselves, right? It's very hard to convince somebody that the way they've been living is wrong. And the reason that it's hard for them to accept it is because acceptance of change is to admit to yourself that you've been doing it wrong the whole time, right? That's why even it, and here's the thing, most people don't know how to master their emotions, right? Their emotions quite literally guide them, and we all have emotions, but the question is how far gone are you on the spectrum? You know what I mean? And I was talking to my fam the other day. A shout out Key. I was talking to him, and it was today actually, and I was talking about how most people literally will choose wickedness and evilness over righteousness 100% of the time. And it's simply because they don't have the courage to be disliked. Or no, this was a conversation maybe a minute ago actually. Um, People don't have the courage to be disliked. Having the courage to be disliked is to do what you know is best despite how your environment responds to you. And when I say your environment, I'm not talking about trees, right? I'm talking about your social environment because not everything is socially acceptable despite it not being unlawful in the eyes of the most high, right? Because people, like for example, we live in a country, if you're in America, where people will tell you that they're a good person, right? But they'll and they'll say, "Well, I don't murder. I don't steal from nobody. I don't lie to nobody yet, but you knocking somebody old lady down." You see what I'm saying? We're in a world where people will say slapping a woman is wrong, but it's okay to kill a baby when you consented to laying yourself down with a person. You see what I'm saying? There is no moral compass in this country, especially those that say they follow the Bible but have never read it. So, yes, people hate change because changing literally requires you to establish a new way of life, a new baseline behavior. And what I mean by baseline behaviors is a baseline behavior is things you do typically. Like, for example, when you wake up, you always put your shoe on or you put your socks on first, right? But you always start with your right instead of your left. Like that's why most people will never be ambidextrous. Like being ambidextrous can be taught, but most people won't do it. Why? Because it requires a change of habit, a change of pattern. And most people have basically the things that have been taught to them since a child ingrained so deeply into them that they can't do anything different. That's why I made a video talking about aging out versus growing out. You will know when someone grows out is because they have gotten rid of the old and came in with some new. It's like software, right? A lot of people have not updated their system. They still run around with um with outdated software, and then it got infected over the years with some malware, and now um, they run around with some busted up tech. They got viruses all throughout their software, and the software is your mind. Imagine our minds are computers, right? And every time a traumatic experience happens, right, you get some malware, a virus uploaded into your computer, and you never uh, cleanse your computer from it. You never get it professionally checked. And when I say professionally, I mean the most high. I mean self development books. I mean self reflection. You see what I'm saying? No, very few people have taken the time out of their day to truly clean their software. And that's why you get people carrying around all this baggage. They're bringing that busted computer up to your home, trying to plug it into your outlet and saying, hey, let's boot up this system now. No, we can't. It'll never work. We can turn it on. It got power, but boy, is it not operational. And there's so many people out here like that because they refuse to accept they're not doing it right. And people say, well, how do you know it's right? Well, look at the results of it. What do the results show? You know what I mean? And everyone is always quick to talk about monetary, anything monetary related. Like everyone is so fixated on money, but if the global economy were to not even necessarily collapse, that not even collapse, but if they were to even just put it on hold for a whole week, just 1 week, put all money on pause, man, everybody would lose their mind because very few people have guidance outside of chasing money. And also, when you're chasing something that you can't catch, you never give yourself time to reflect on the things that are truly wrong, right? That's why when you see people, the moment they get home, they find the need to jump on the game, jump on social media, jump on Netflix, jump on Disney Plus, jump on all these different things that distract them from the fact that there is something wrong. Because if something is wrong, there must be change, right? It's like if you have you ever bent over to pick up something very heavy, right? Say you were moving furniture, right? And you felt something wrong in your body, right? You just felt it was wrong. What did you do? You changed positions. The problem with most people in this world today is they're very carnal. They're very physical minded, meaning that it's very easy for them to see physical problems in front of them, right, and notice it and make a change. But when there's mental issues, they're heavily ignored because they can't see them. For example, I told a guy, it was somebody I know, an acquaintance, I'll say that. And we were talking about something, and we brought up, he's agnostic. He's not, I don't think he's agnostic. I don't know if he's agnostic or atheist. He's one of the two. But I was talking to him, and I said this, because we got on the topic of Yah, the Most High Yah. And he said he doesn't believe, he doesn't know, he'll leave it up to scientists, all this, whatever. He said because he can't see it. And I said, well, you can't see gravity, and you can't see the wind. You just feel the effects of it, right? And even uh, and then even scientists can't explain gravity. Not truly. They might say, well, the sun, and it's like, man, but you still can't see it. You're speculating. You've never been to the sun. You have a strong hypothesis of your opinion. And I said you can't see it. And then he said, well, we can test it and this and that. And I said, well, okay. Well, what about your emotions? I said you can't see them. And then he said, well, what about brain waves and all of this and that? I said, man, what about emotion? How can you say and validate if someone's emotion are real? Yes, you can say brainwaves. Man, you could have just been excited, which is an emotion, right? Which is an emotion. But how do we know what the thought was? Is pretty much what I was getting at. I was like, the thought could have been anything. Um, actually I forget what the topic was. I don't even know what we're talking about. Nonetheless, man, I was just basically explaining to him. Oh, that's what it was. We started talking about physical evidence. That's what it was. We didn't get on the mental part because we started getting sidetracked. Um, but mentally, not mentally, physically, we started talking about different. different artifacts. And I asked him, I said, what would change? What would you need to change your mind, or what would you need to consider this stance that I'm presenting? That's what it was. I started to mix up two conversations with someone else completely. Um, but me and him were talking, and he said, I said, well, what if you there was physical evidence presented? He said, I don't know if that would be enough for me. And me and him just looked at each other, and I was like, well, what do you mean? You don't believe it'll be enough? And he said, I don't. I just don't think it'll be enough for me. And at that point in my mind, I truly started to understand that most people don't want to change because they don't want to change. Now, I know it sounds like I said the same thing, but really let that settle. Most people don't want to change because they have gotten too good at doing the wrong thing. Change literally means you have been living your entire existence wrong. That's why the older someone gets, the harder it is to lead them towards change, because it means that, like I've said earlier in this video, you've been misleading yourself this whole time. And also, it makes you question your intellect. It's like, how could I have been so dumb to not have known this? The one of the worst things you can hear from people is this. Excuse me. One of the worst things people will tell you that they experienced was doing something for so long just to realize they were wrong. Because what it basically means is, to yourself, and your mind is going to protect you from itself, right? Like sometimes that's why in certain situations, um involuntary effects on the body kick in. Your body's protecting you from itself. And one of those things is this: when you've been wrong for 50 years, man, your body basically starts to question its own leadership skills. Like, how could we have allowed this to happen? And then you start, not only do you start questioning that, you start questioning your environment around you. Why did no one say anything despite seeing me on this self-destructing course correct me? So why did no one course correct me? So not only are you questioning yourself, you questioning people around you. And then this is what people tend to do, and this is when they fall out from. Uh, I'll use organized religion, right? Even though there's only one truth, we'll just stick with organized religion because that's what everybody running behind. That's when people typically leave organized religion. How could and this is what they say. They say, how can this all powerful being, even though they're running behind some idols, they'll say, well, I'll just use the word idols. They'll be like, how can this idol lead me astray? I ain't gonna say lead me astray. They'll leave because that's related to the Bible, and we know the Bible true. So, but they'll say, how could I have been misled this whole time by this higher power, right? Whole time they be doing everything detrimental to themselves under the sun. At every chance to make the wrong decision, they do. At no point that they stop and go, okay, what is the smartest thing to do right now that will be positive on me today, tomorrow, and 5 years from now? At no point do they do that. So to sum it up, that's why people don't change. They don't change simply because it means that you have been wrong this whole time leading up to the change. And most people can't stomach the fact that they were so uh, unwise. I'll just say it. I'll just say it that way. Most people can't stomach the fact that they're unwise. And yeah, I mean it's as simple as that. That's why people won't change. But with that being said, it's your boy D Got Sense, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.